We know if that customer receives the card, and we know if they go on to make a subsequent purchase, and we know if they use the coupon code on the card. So we can track in real time in a dashboard, this person hasn't purchased in 6 months. We triggered a card to go to them at 180 days. They purchased a few days after receiving the card. We can show you that that conversion happened in your dashboard.
In this episode, I'm talking to Michael Epstein, co-founder of PostPilot. PostPilot is the Klaviyo for direct mail. That's right, direct mail. You know, the type that goes into your physical mailbox? We'll talk about go-to-market strategies. How did they attract thousands of DTC brands, including 9-figure DTC brands like Mudwater, Bulletproof, and Dr. Squatch? What ROIs can be expected with direct mail campaigns, and what KPIs do they use to track success? We'll also try to figure out how much money this direct mail platform makes per year. And if you can't answer a question, we both have to take a shot of hot sauce. Wish me luck, Martians. Hope you enjoy this one. Hello, Martians. Welcome back to another episode of Marketing on Mars. Today, we have Michael Epstein. He is currently a private equity and venture capital operating partner, a direct-to-consumer brand CMO, and an e-com and SaaS investor. I'm super excited to have him on. He scaled several companies to multi-million-dollar exits, so I'm sure he's going to be able to talk a lot about how he did that. His most recent company that he sold, or he was part of, is called Auto Anything, which successfully exited in 2021. At the time of sale, Auto Anything had scaled to $200 million in revenue. So I'm sure we're going to be able to talk a little bit about that as well. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, Simon. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, super excited to learn more about you and also your background. Maybe just to kick things off, who is Michael? Maybe tell us your story, where you're from, and how you became, CMO of PostPilot.
Sure. I won't go too philosophical on it. Who is Michael? Let me think. I've been in e-com for over 20 years. I'm like an old guy, and started my first company in 2000. Sold it in 2013 to private equity, and that's where I met my current business partner, Drew, who had a similar exit, and we became private equity operating partners for a couple of funds, running either diligence or advisory or actual hands-on operating some of the portfolio companies, typically 8 and 9-figure online retailers that were struggling or time in decline. That's why they brought us in, and we had some successful turnarounds there. And as you mentioned, a few exits along the way. And along the way, we also had used direct mail at all of our roles, and we just found it to be this clunky, old school experience. And we had this thesis that it was time for direct mail to make a bit of a comeback, if somebody could modernize it, make it more like email. And so we had this thesis around it that, again, as people have experienced more and more digital overload and digital channels got more and more saturated, it was time for something for that to make a comeback. So we set out to start PostPilot, and that brings us kind of up to today, where we've got a direct mail platform for e-com and direct-to-consumer brands.
That's awesome. So I'm sure we're going to get into PostPilot in a little bit. Maybe talk a little bit about how you guys make money, how much money you guys are making, if that's shareable.
Sure.
But like I said, this show, the theme is we're going to start off the show with a shot of hot sauce. I don't know what you have, but you're going to share it in a second. And every single time I ask a question and you cannot answer, you and I will both take another shot of hot sauce. So that is the theme. What weapon do you have today for you?
Yeah, I was prepared in advance. I brought the Truff with me, which is one of the brands on PostPilot that uses PostPilot today. So I got a support, and I got the waste bin next to me too, if I start to throw up on camera.
The waste bin. Hopefully we don't get it. We won't have to use it. I think the Truff from we had a recent episode, CMO of Alo Yoga, Angelique Van Dat. She also had the Truff.
It is good. I just I'm not used to taking it in shots, so and I watch like the hot ones, like the show, and I'm like, I don't know how these people go on it, because I would die. I mean, I would die on screen, and that's that makes for bad video, or maybe good video.
Good video, yeah. We'll go viral. So, please, please, you can puke today. Please, I'll fly and I'll pay you. I'll give you some kind of gift.
Anything I can do to help out. That's just who I am. That's who Michael Epstein is.
So we'll start off the show with a shot of hot sauce. I got a Korean hot sauce. It's quite spicy. I'm gonna try to go a little heavy today. So I'm gonna fill up my spoon.
And
we'll start off the show with a shot. So I'm packed. I'm full. Oh.
All right.
Okay.
That was different.
How was that?
Not great, but let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Oh my God. I just drooled. Oh, that's disgusting. This is unfiltered.
We're doing it live. Love it.
I'm gonna get some water. While I'm drinking some water, you've kind of explained what PostPilot does, but maybe give us the full lowdown on PostPilot.
Yeah, sure. So it's a platform that plugs into your e-com stack. So we're natively integrated with Shopify, Klaviyo, OmniSend, Recharge, a bunch of your e-com tools, and we allow you to send automated, triggered, personalized direct mail campaigns as easily as you'd send an email campaign. So think about your Klaviyo account, your segment. You're creating a segment of your audience. You're sending either a campaign, like a one-off campaign, think new product release, new sale announcement, or you're creating automated flow. So think your win-back flow, your VIP flow, your second purchase flow, your abandoned cart flow, where as soon as somebody enters that segment, in Klaviyo's case, it would send an individually personalized email to that person as soon as they enter your segment. In our case, we're sending an individually personalized postcard to that recipient. And it works really well.
Okay, so for email, from my understanding for D2C, a good open rate would be like, it would range between like 10 to 30% open rate. I've seen some D2C, 40% really good open rates.
Yeah.
It's hard to track open rates with direct mail. So what are some of the main KPIs that you guys look at?
Yeah, it's a great question. And part of the appeal of direct mail is that you look at your open rates on your email campaigns or your flows. And that was one of the big impetuses for us to start this, because we built these amazing lifecycle email campaigns, because that's our DNA, like that's where we come from, is digital marketing, email, lifecycle marketing. And we'd look at it and we'd be like, we're hitting 25% of our audience this way. And how do we get in front of the other 75, 80% of folks that aren't opening or aren't subscribed any longer with this really relevant, really targeted message? And so again, we use direct mail for that, but it was clunky. Now we do it. We've made it really easy. And in terms of measuring it, we know, because we're integrated with Shopify, we know if that customer receives the card, and we know if they go on to make a subsequent purchase, and we know if they use the coupon code on the card. So we can track in real time in a dashboard, this person hasn't purchased in 6 months. We triggered a card to go to them at 180 days. They purchased a few days after receiving the card, and we can show you that conversion happened in your dashboard. Okay.
And do you guys do anything interesting where, let's say on the email side, if your open rates with a certain sub segment is very strong already, let's say, for example, Michael, you're one of my customers, and you're constantly opening up your emails. Do I then not add you to the direct mail campaign because you're already engaged with us?
Yeah, great question. And yes, so because we also integrate with Klaviyo and other ESPs, we'll create a segment of your engaged email subscribers and say, let's filter them out from receiving a campaign. If they're opening all of your emails, we don't need to send them a direct mail campaign. Let's save the money. If they're not, though, and most are not, then, okay, we know that they haven't opened an email in the last 30 days. let's trigger a card to go out to them if they meet that segment criteria that you set up.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the ICPs, because you mentioned Truff is one of your clients. So I'm assuming some big companies are using this. Can you tell us what is a good? Do you recommend this for all e-com stores, like of all sizes, or just certain types? And maybe we'll start there. And maybe if you can talk about some of your larger clients too, that'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure. So we do recommend that you do at least $1 million in revenue. Ideally, it's more 3 to 5 million in revenue, just in terms of your annual revenue. And the reason for that is you've really clearly defined your audience. You know what offer generally works. You have enough customer data so that we can build meaningful segments of customers. Like, it's tough if we try and create these different segments and cohorts and there's like 20 people in them. It's not going to, one, move the needle very much for your business, and two, hard to get statistically significant data when you have to create really tiny segments of customers. With larger brands, we can do that. So that's why we kind of have the revenue size. The category can vary. Different brands are better suited for different types of campaigns. So, for example, if you sell consumable product like Truff, and you know that it's expected to last, 30, 60 days, there's a natural sort of replenishment cycle. Very easy to set up things like win-back campaigns where well, they haven't bought when I've been emailing them. How can I get them to buy from me again before I lose them for good? Other products, we work with a baby stroller brand. You don't need a second one of those necessarily. So those are better suited for more of our acquisition type and remarketing campaigns. So the categories we work with can vary a lot. We would advise you or help you set up the right strategy that we think makes sense for your brand based on our experience with thousands of brands. And again, make sure that you're doing the right thing. But again, as a minimum size, that's kind of our ICP.
So minimum of $1 million. What would be some of your largest, like if you're thinking in your head, your top 3 clients? And by the way, I'm careful to ask this in case you can't answer. But yeah.
Thank you for your discretion. We definitely have a bunch of 9-figure, like high 8-figure and 9-figure brands. Dr. Squatch is one of them. And thinking who else like in that extra large space that I can talk about. We've got brands like Mudwater, and we're working with, we have thousands of brands on the platform. A lot I'm thinking of of the largest size who we talk about. Yeah. And I'm looking at the hot sauce being like, it's like the extra stress.
The producers.
But yeah, we work with a bunch of the larger brands that are doing well into the 9 figures, but a lot in that sweet spot of like 10 to 50 million as well.
All right. I'm going to do a small hot sauce for us just because I feel like the producers got us there.
Okay. I saw the lights flashing. So
yeah, the light. Yeah. Briefly flash. I don't control the lights. The producers somewhere. It just kind of comes over. I guess I have a producer living at my home somewhere, but,
all right.
Cheers on this. That first one really the first one got me real bad. This one is not as bad, but still bad. Okay. So big companies, Dr. Squash. They
soap brand. They had a Super Bowl commercial, I think last year.
Okay. Wow. So big, like 100 million north a revenue company. And Mudwater is pretty popular too. They're all over everywhere. Super good branding. But yeah, okay. So good for D2C. That's majority of your clientele. And you talked about different trigger flows, win back campaigns, cross-selling. What else is this good for? Is this good for Is this good for referrals, like referral programs, things like that, of that nature?
I think that I wouldn't use it for referrals. Like that wouldn't be a primary use case, but you start working your way up to acquisition campaigns. So beyond just the flows and campaigns going to your existing customers, you can, there's Ben probably feeling for me. I'm dying on the shots. You can work your way up to remarketing campaigns. So we have technology called Mail Match, which it allows you to take your existing email prospects who have never purchased from you, match them to a physical postal address, and we can target that person with a postcard, even though you didn't have their physical address. We're rolling out a new feature that allows you to do that off website visitors. So even if they haven't opted into your email list or made a purchase from you, if we can identify them visiting your site and match them to a postal address, we can target them with the postcard. And then you start to work up to lookalike models and things like pure cold acquisition campaigns like you would do with Facebook.
How does that, the website, I'm interested in that one. So someone visits your website and you match their postal code. How does that work? Can you explain a little bit more?
Yeah. So without kind of going into the technical weeds of what's going on behind the scenes, if we can identify that user, we work with a lot of like data aggregators and data providers that have lots of data points on all sort of US households and consumers. And if we can identify who that person is using a number of different factors and variables of that kind of address, that IP address visiting your website, and match that to a postal address with confidence, then we can target that person with a postcard. We can target them based on what pages they viewed on your site, other attributes that ensure that they're engaged with your brand. Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm sure you know this with the whole iOS updates with advertising and also, Facebook. There's this huge push against retargeting now. And so this is interesting. I mean, depending on how, I don't know how that works because I'm not super technical, but if it's super accurate, that could be a very good avenue to go down for retargeting.
Yeah.
Because it seems like a lot of ads don't allow that.
For sure. This is all compliant. There's a lot of privacy, like restrictions and policies in place to ensure that it's fully compliant. And yeah, it's a big opportunity for brands that have struggled because of the limitations that now exist with certain retargeting platforms.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a little bit about where you guys are at right now. Have you guys raised any money? Maybe we'll start there.
Sure. We did do a relatively small raise last year. We are well into 8 figures of revenue at this point and have thousands of customers on our platform. And we've just grown extremely fast over the last couple of years. There's just been a big appetite for what we're doing and the way we do it. And so, yeah, it's just been a really fun ride over the last couple of years.
Sice. So how much in revenue exactly are we talking about? So
yeah, where's the light? Where's the siren? There it is. There it is.
Okay. Let me do some math here. Okay, so well into the 8 figures, so that's 10 million plus.
Yeah,
we're doing the math right. Okay. Yeah, we don't know the exact number, but it's 10 million plus. So you guys have grown quite a bit in just the past few years.
Yeah, okay. For sure.
Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna avoid number questions from now on. No more number questions. Cheers.
All right.
Oh.
Let's go to this one.
How you doing with that truff hot sauce?
I won't say anything bad about it at all because it's our customer and it's great.
It's great to do shots of.
I just don't know that it's meant for that type of consumption, but I'm also a wimp when it comes to hot, real spicy stuff. So
yeah. I mean, it's kind of like taking shots of alcohol, to be honest. It does hurt.
I do think I would probably do better with tequila, but it's good. It tastes delicious, and I highly recommend everyone go out and buy truff.
There you go. Giving some love to your clients. That's how you do it. That's how you run the business. All right. So you guys are doing really well. You guys have raised some money as well. Let's go back to the company, right?
Yeah.
You guys do direct mail for D2C companies. How much does it cost to use PostPilot in the platform? Do you have any different pricing plans or anything like that?
Yeah. So bottom line is it's 49 cents a card. That includes postage, printing. We also have concierge service. Like we'll do the setup, the strategy, even the creative design. We have a full team of in-house creative designers that are awesome. And it's basically included in the price because we know that almost all the brands that we work with today have not done direct mail in the past. These aren't brands that have done a million catalogs before and now are coming to us to do something. These are brands where they're doing Facebook ads and email campaigns and digital, the core digital marketing channels. And they want to test adding direct mail as another channel for retention and acquisition. And so we want to make sure that they're set up for success. They're following best practices. So we do basically all the work for them. And we make it really easy to get started. There's no minimum, there's no commitment, contracts, anything like that. And it starts at 49 cents for a 4x6 postcard.
Yeah. So so the cost is 49 cents. What kind of ROI should be expected on direct mail versus other kind of ad platforms and all that?
Yeah. So obviously, just like any marketing channel or any marketing campaign, it's going to depend a lot on audience and offer. And so obviously, if you're targeting, say, customers that haven't bought in the last 30 to 60 days, it's going to ROI differently than people that haven't bought in the last 365 days plus. So you kind of have to think about it like, what's my target ROAS, my target ROI, and let's test sending to different cohorts of customers based on sort of recency and frequency, and keep going and expanding that audience as large as we can until we max out and hit the target, the minimum ROI that we can get. So for some brands, it might be once we've targeted people over 90 days old and they have a 3x target ROAS, maybe that's the furthest out we can go and still get that 3x ROAS. In other brands, like we worked with the brand Four Sigmatic, and they went over 2 years back, and we're still seeing profitable reactivation of customers at that point. So that's how we kind of think about ROI in general. I would say for retention campaigns, our internal goal is typically to deliver a 5 to 10x ROAS on the first sets of core campaigns, so that you're really happy. You get a strong baseline to say we can continue to expand from here. And then on things like remarketing, think more like 3 to 6x. And on cold acquisition, typically brands are coming to us saying, if you can get kind of between, some brands can go as low as 1, others 1.5 or 2. Typically 1 to 3x would be considered a win for a lot of brands and something that they can start to scale with. In some cases, it's certainly higher, but that's kind of a baseline number that you could think about to say, here's what we would look to get as we test into this and continue to expand from there.
Yeah, that's amazing. 1 to 3x on cold. I mean, talk to any D2C marketer and tell them and ask them, would you want 1 to 3x on cold? And they'll probably say yes.
Yeah.
Especially like you've probably seen the cost of acquisition just kind of skyrocketing the last couple of years across many different industries, regardless of what you're selling, as long as you're in D2C. Even B2B, you're seeing the same thing, right? Where like cost of acquisition kind of increasing. I've seen like between 3 to 6x increase in CAC. So for you guys, are you guys seeing a lot more companies kind of saying yes, or like that said no a few years back and then kind of coming back to you guys and saying, hey, we want to test this out now because our online channels are just not working for us anymore?
Yeah, absolutely. So to your point, yes, I mean, we know acquisition has gotten harder for brands, and I will caveat it and say direct mail for cold acquisition isn't necessarily going to work for everybody. Like there are certain brands, just like Facebook, depends on your product, depends on your AOV, depends on your audience. Like if you're saying, I don't know how to make Facebook or any other channels work for me, let me try doing postcards. Like that's not necessarily, you're not necessarily going to be a great fit. But for a lot of brands who kind of have cracked the code, like they understand what the offer is that works and has worked for them historically. They have, strong offering. They have a decent AOV, decent conversion rate on their website. Like those are ones we can definitely test into, especially folks that have a clearly defined audience. Like for example, we did a campaign for a baby clothes brand, and they're sitting over a 4x on cold acquisition. We were able to target precisely folks, expectant mothers in their second and third trimester. Like, so we were able to really target on that cold acquisition audience. And they knew that like, that's their best audience. That's their best prospect right there. So by doing that and knowing that they had a strong offer and a strongest product, merchandise selection, like they killed it. Other brands might not do so well. Again, like a super broad audience on a low AOV product, like not necessarily gonna do so well. But to answer your question as well, like yes, the appetite for brands trying to find a new acquisition channel in particular is so strong right now because Facebook, either performance has suffered, competition is driving up costs and driving down ROI, and in some cases, they just kind of tapped out their ability to scale certain channels. So some brands are looking at it saying like, absolutely, okay, I'm getting a healthy enough return on my current Facebook spend, but I know every time I try and push that spend any further than where I'm at, like I've hit a point of diminishing returns where that next marginal dollar is not hitting our target ROAS. So where can I start to deploy more of my marketing budget and get incremental ROI that hits sort of my targets for acquisition?
Awesome. By the way, we have about 10 people on 8 or 10 people on LinkedIn. And I see that we have about 4 people on YouTube as well. If you guys have any questions for Michael, ask the questions. I can't be the only one thinking about these tough questions.
Just don't make them too specific or hard, because I might throw up on camera.
Yeah, or I'll do it as well. But
I'm kidding. You can ask me anything you want.
Yeah, ask anything. Like actually anything. I do have a question. That one client you mentioned, the baby, the baby product company. How were they able to target so, like, mothers in second or third trimester? How is that? Is there like a database of mothers that they were able to find their addresses for? Like how, or are you guys the experts, and you guys, if I come to you and I say, hey, I want to target these people, would your team at PostPilot be able to find the exact addresses, or were they the ones who found it?
Yeah, so we help with that. We find the addresses. We work with all the big data providers. So, kind of, again, without going too weeds, like the behind the scenes is there's these large consumer databases that exist that are, huge companies that have data on you, Simon, and me, and thousands of attributes that they aggregate across a huge number of different sources of data, including like attributes like not just how old you are and what your household income is and things like that, but like, do you have a Netflix subscription? How many times a month do you shop at Target? Like, what do you have a preference for Bud Light? There's thousands of attributes that are sort of aggregated in these large consumer databases of,
Wow.
hundreds of millions of consumers and households across the US. And we have direct relationships with them and can build lookalike models and use those kind of model against these large databases of consumer information and find what we think are really strong matches that go beyond, again, the superficial demographic attributes and really get very, very nuanced and granular in terms of who represents, like, what's a good lookalike for a particular brand's best customer. And then we can say we want, depending on how strong of a model that we can build, we'll say we found that there's 200,000 people in the US that kind of are really, really strong matches for this audience. And we can pull from that and test into that and measure the results. And if we see good results, we keep kind of scaling that up. So in a nutshell, that's kind of how it works. And then we can also layer on specific attributes, like we know that they're an expectant mother because in one place or another, maybe they've registered, they've completed a baby registry somewhere or something like that, where they have to input their due date, and then you can kind of understand where they're at even in their pregnancy. It's really interesting how detailed and deep we can get into some of these audience models and find customers that might be a good fit for your brand.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. I want to kind of shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about your marketing channels now, rather than talking about what you do for your clients. So for PostPilot, you guys have grown to thousands of users, like over 2,000 companies now, or something like that, using PostPilot. Yeah, so a lot. How did what kind of marketing channels do you guys use to acquire these clients?
Yeah, we've been fortunate in that, me and my co-founder have really deep roots in the e-com and direct-to-consumer community. So it really helped by just starting with our network, and then it's really snowballed from there in a lot of ways. We haven't done a lot of outbound marketing. We're ramping a lot of that up now. We've grown our team significantly. We've both on the marketing side and sort of on the sales side, but a lot of this has been through inbound as a result of word of mouth, referrals. A lot of the more inbound channels have worked really well for us, and we've tested paid ads. We sponsor some events, things like that. So we've tested into a number of those things as well, but a lot of it just comes from word of mouth and referrals as a result of the product that we built and the team and service that we deliver to our customers.
Yeah. How much did you guys test, or like what was your budget for paid ads? And what were some of the results? Were they successful for you guys?
Yeah, we'll spend in the tens of thousands a month on paid ads just to ensure that we're continuously generating awareness and staying top of mind for both prospects and our existing customers. But yeah, we look at kind of leads that we're bringing in as a result of those channels and how qualified are those leads. I think where you can struggle a lot is prospects, and you can capture a lot of interest, but it's hard to say we want to target only people that are doing, we don't want just e-commerce store owners. We want e-commerce store owners doing over this much in revenue. Like, that's hard to do through Facebook and other sort of standard channels. So it's casting a bit of a wide net, but we also like to make sure that, again, we're just popping up on people's radar and are top of mind.
And then for sponsorships, what kind of do you guys sponsoring e-com events kind of thing, or other types of sponsorships?
Yeah, so we're starting to ramp that up more. We've done sponsorships in the past where we'll host dinners, we'll attend, trade shows and things like that. But I think there's usually either like live in-person events, dinners, other things that are surrounding different like e-commerce shows that we'll participate in, and again, at a minimum, we'll at least attend so that we can get good face time with a lot of our existing customers and prospects.
Yeah, it seems like in-person stuff is really starting to kick back in a very big way, right? Because there was like 2 years of no in-person stuff. Now everybody is doing. So there's a lot of community type stuff, a lot of networking, and it seems like a lot of people are just doubling down. And like we said, right now, ad cost is kind of very expensive. SEO is difficult. So, and a lot of, especially in the B2B world, because you're kind of B2B as well. You're working with businesses. A lot of businesses are tightening their budgets and maybe not making decisions, any kind of investment decisions for the next 3-4 months. So sales cycles have increased. So just connecting with other founders and trying to get a sense, maybe they just want to get a sense of and the pulse of the economy and how things are going. Do you see a lot of that happening in your world?
Yeah, for sure. I think you're spot on. Like, we hear from a lot of people that they're just happy to get out and start seeing people again. And so it does seem like that's picked up a lot, which I think, it kind of plays into what we talk about too, like just the physical, tangible connection. I know it's not the same as like face-to-face, but those physical, tangible connections with brands are so much more memorable and stand out versus digital ads or emails that, people are just overwhelmed with and are forgotten instantaneously. We feel really strongly about those physical connections, and it goes for like meeting people in person and meeting our customers in person too. It's such a different experience.
Yeah. By the way, we have a question coming in, so we'll throw that on the screen. One last question before we go over to the audience. By the way, audience, type in your questions if you guys have anything for Michael. So when you're sending these cards, these physical cards, how do they look like? Is it something that just stands out as soon as you walk by the door and you see it and you're like, holy crap, it's like one of these pop-up cards or whatever? I don't know, like, how do they normally look, and what has been the most creative and effective cards that you've seen your clients create? Yeah.
So we have a few different formats. So you've got the postcards. I was just going to see if I got something like right next to me. Like a standard postcard, it still stands out because you're flipping through. Sorry, Siri. You're flipping through your mail. And when you see something from a brand that you recognize, like that you've done business with before, or that you recognize the brand, like, think about it. As you're flipping through it, you stop and you actually look at what's on it. You don't just take your mail out of your mailbox and throw it all away without looking at it, like people do with email, where they just kind of delete without even reading it. You at least stop and look at what's on it, and that's why it gets much better engagement. And you can do some really creative stuff. Like, our design team is truly incredible, and they create really catchy designs. Like, some of the more unique stuff that we've seen, we are doing, like, one brand was a shoe brand, and they actually did an oversized card and did a shoe, like they were kids shoe brand. So they put like the measure, like the shoe measurement outline of a foot, like on the card itself. So it serves like a practical purpose. So the kid steps on it and it actually measures their foot. We saw another brand that we work with is a health brand. They put a calendar, like a workout calendar on it. We're doing some really interesting stuff with like augmented reality now, where you can scan the card and literally have virtual reality pop up in front of you, which is really, really neat. There's some interesting stuff that we're working on there. And then you can do other formats too. So here's an example. We call this our catalog format because it's like a cross between a postcard and a catalog.
Yeah.
You can kind of get a sense of how large it is here.
Oh yeah.
So what this is really cool for brands that have thought about doing a catalog. But the problem with catalogs is you got to prepare and lock down your creative like 4 months in advance.
Yeah.
You got to do, you need like a team of people working on the creative for this because it takes a ton of work to put together a catalog. It's like creating a magazine.
And then your cost per send goes up a lot more.
Right. And you have a huge minimum because you have to like work with these printers that have, they can't run anything less than like 50 or 100,000 of these things at a time. So with this, there's no minimum, there's no lead time. And our team will design it for you again, like as part of the service. We could turn this around in a few days. And once it's the design, and then once it's approved, like we can send it out tomorrow. You can send one, like there's no minimum quantity. So it's a great way to test into having more of like a catalog presentation, but without all the hassle and expense that comes with actually creating a full catalog.
So what would be like a cost for creating something like that?
75 cents.
Oh, wow. So you guys don't have like a fixed like $3,000 to create this design or whatever. There's no fixed cost for design.
We do it for you.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Cool. Yeah,
you could test different creative variations. So you could send, you could even say for people that bought, dresses from my store, I want to send them one that shows more dresses. But for people that bought t-shirts, I want to send them one that shows more t-shirts. We can send as many different creative variations and make it really personalized because there's no minimum and there's no turnaround time, and we'll do the design work. So it's like, it's a really cool thing that's unique to us in that respect.
What do you think about sending a card in the shape of a hot sauce and there's smudges of just little tiny smudges of hot sauce? You can just lick it off the card. Do you think that's going to fly? Do you think that's a good idea?
We had somebody that asked if they could I think they sold dried meats and they asked can we staple a salami to it? And I was like, no, not only is that kind of disgusting, but with it does actually have to go through the USPS sorting machines. And I'm pretty sure that salami would not make it through those machines.
Oh, that's hilarious. Okay. Yeah. I might have some more questions in the end, but let's dive into questions. Okay. Grace Lee from LinkedIn says, loving the hot sauce shots. Thank you. What do you think about personal branding as a networking strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do believe in, it's called Dave Gerhardt, who was with Privy and a number of other high growth SaaS brands. I think he coined the term of founder brand, and we believe in that a lot. We have deep roots in sort of the community of e-com and direct to consumer brands, and so we definitely are trying to be out there. Particularly Drew, my business partner, he's been a very influential name in e-com space for decades as well. So, we definitely leverage that. I think that's been a big key to our success.
Okay. Yeah, I think personal branding, it's huge. When you look at LinkedIn, and you compare the business's LinkedIn profile, which probably has 1,000 views or maybe 2,000 impressions, and you compare it to the CEO of that company, he'll probably have like 10, 20x, sometimes even 30x the number of views. You see that people are drawn towards the founders and towards the person behind the brand.
People want to talk to people, not brands.
Exactly. It's B2B, but and I say this on the show a lot, it's really P2P. It's a person to another person. Totally. Or some people have called it H to H. That seems to be like the trend this year. And we've known this for so many years, but B2B just makes it seem like there's no humans involved, but it's all humans. That's all it is, right? And with how you grew your company, it was just all personal. Initially, it was just a bunch of your personal network, right? So
Yep, exactly.
Super important. Okay, so I was curious because you've grown several companies and they've all sold for 7-figure, 8-figure, even 9-figure companies. For you, what drives you now to still continue to build PostPilot after several successful exits?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think one, this is the most fun. I think my partner and I say this to each other pretty regularly. Like, this is the most fun we've probably had in our professional career. Nothing against what we've done before, but just being part of this wave and this growth story and doing things that are really unique and that people are responding to with such enthusiasm has just been fulfilling and exciting in a way that I think is different from what we've experienced in the past. So that's one. And yeah, I think it's also just the culmination of 20 plus years in e-com. Like, it really does feel like we're taking all the learnings about everything we've done, from building high performing teams to, building product capabilities that we know are going to really resonate with our customers. Like, it's like we're finally able to take all that learning that we've had combined, 40, 50 years of learnings between the two of us and apply it to something that, again, is getting such a great reception. It's just fun, exciting, rewarding. And I think that's what drives us.
Oh my God.
Too much hot sauce.
Yeah. Oh, I think that was the fire alarm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We'll stay off the hot sauce for a second. No, that's incredible, because you hear so many stories of founders that had their first successful exit and then they try to retire for a year or two, and then they realize they have that itch to come back. Okay, that's really loud. And then they have that itch to come back. And this is live. This is crazy. They have that itch to come back. Did you take some time off after your first exit when you first sold your first company, or did you go straight back into the next thing? How long was that delay, that gap?
I made it about 2 weeks, and I remember just laying outside and thinking to myself, like, I don't think I can keep this up for that much longer. Like, I get bored very quickly. And so it became pretty apparent quicker than I thought that I needed to find something to do. I think I would have driven my family crazy too if I didn't find something to do.
Did you already have kids at that time?
Yes. At that time that was 2013. Yeah. So my kids were really little at that point. But yeah, I think I definitely knew that just sitting around was going to get old really, really fast.
How involved does your wife or partner get in with the startup stuff? Do you try to keep it life and business pretty separate, or are they pretty involved with the decisions?
My wife is, I wouldn't say involved in the business in any way, other than she hears, about my day and about what's going on in the business a lot.
All the complaints and the stress and the struggles. Right? She gets it all.
She's unbelievably supportive, and I could not do what I do without her, because she takes on a lot of extra responsibility that I can't, because of just how busy I am in the business. So yeah, she's not a partner in that respect, but she's a partner in that we're a team, and I couldn't do what I do if she wasn't doing what she does.
Yeah, absolutely. And your kids, do you find that, because they were really young when you started, so it was 2013. This was not PostPilot, your second startup.
Yeah.
So you've always kind of been working. Do you try to, after your first successful exit, do you try to tone down your work so you're not working like 12, 14-hour days because you've already kind of made some money, or are you just always go and just continue to work even after that first exit?
I wouldn't say that balance is my biggest strong suit, and it's something that I'm working on. I don't necessarily aspire to work all of the time, but again, I think especially right now where we're in such high growth mode and so many things are happening so quickly, and we're trying to hire faster and faster so that we can keep up. And there's not a lot of downtime, but it's also really enjoyable. So if I was hating it every minute, or if things were going terribly and it was just stressful all the time, that might be a different story. But it's energizing when you wake up excited about what you're going to accomplish that day, and you go to sleep happy about the progress the business is making. So it's I wouldn't say that I have quite as much balance as I ultimately want to have, but I'm also enjoying what I'm doing, so that helps.
Yeah, it's crazy. Until you're a founder, you don't realize how much time it takes to actually grow a company, because and this as a founder, when things are very good and your company is growing, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's less stress. You're creating more stress for the future because you're growing so fast. Now you got to think about team size. You got to think about systems, right? To be able to support that team, potentially, cash flow and capital requirements, right? So you're constantly thinking when you're a startup founder, and sometimes maybe even more when your company starts to grow, right? How many hours are you working nowadays with PostPilot?
It can vary. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure it's at least 60 or 80 or more than that, but it can vary. But yeah, it's a bunch.
It's a bunch, yeah.
Yeah.
And then for some of our listeners that might be maybe not as experienced and don't really maybe want to hear more early stage advice, when you're first building PostPilot, or walk us back to your first couple of startups when you were still kind of learning, right? What advice would you give to founders that are just starting out, or maybe need some words of encouragement to keep them going? Because sometimes it's not always pretty when you're in the early days of the startup life. Like, what advice would you give them to kind of keep pushing forward?
I think I used to say something like, being an entrepreneur is like knowing that you're going to get punched in the face every day, but like still going in and doing it anyway. Cause there's always going to be something. There's always going to be setbacks and things like that. I think, it's pressure over time. So the more the more you just stick at it and try and figure things out. Like, I'm not saying that, there are certain businesses that just don't make sense. I'm kind of excluding those. But if you're starting to find traction, there's just something to be said for pressure over time. You're going to start to figure things out. And you just have to build on those wins. And I think also what a lot of entrepreneurs struggle the most with is that initial hiring and starting to learn how to delegate and build a team around you. And I think it's really, the team is the most important thing, like to be able to bring in people that are as good or better than you at certain areas, and to be able to delegate is going to accelerate your growth in ways that you can't even really imagine. So trying to push to to get that next hire is something that brands should, entrepreneurs should always be thinking about. Get the right people on the bus.
All right, so we got a question from Ashley. Ashley asked, what topics did you and Drew, your business partner, butt heads on? And I think Ashley's trying to get you to take a shot of hot sauce.
I mean, this is going to sound, I don't know, this is going to sound like disingenuous, but we're very philosophically aligned. Like, we really have had just such a strong working relationship since day one. We've worked together for over 10 years, and we're at that point where I think we finish each other's sentences and we know what each other's thinking, and we know each other personally so well that I don't know, you're not going to like the answer, Ashley, but I don't think there's very few things that we would disagree on. We're usually on the same page. And I think we also complement each other's strengths and weaknesses too, which I think helps. It would be different. I couldn't work with somebody that's exactly myself. I mean, I think a lot of people would say that. I think we're very complementary in how we've divided up roles and responsibilities and where we focus our time and energy. And so that's helped to prevent or alleviate any potential conflict there.
Why do you think you and Drew get along so well? What is your strength and weakness, and where does Drew kind of complement you?
I think I'm a little more internal facing. I'm more operational. He's more external facing. He's very high level, big picture and strategic. And he's super charismatic, really great, from a public facing perspective.
So are you. I mean, you as well. You're on this podcast.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, so I think it's more from roles and responsibilities, he's a little more outward facing. I'm a little more focused on the internal operation of the business. But yeah, just have such respect for him as a person and his skill set that, again, it's created a really good working relationship for us over the years.
Okay, cool. I think we're just about wrapping up. We're heading to 2 p.m. PST. So before we wrap up, maybe just maybe either words of advice for people that are listening. It seems like we have we have people that are more senior and also junior people asking questions, or maybe even talking about what's to come for PostPilot. So I'll leave you to say final closing words.
Yeah, I think we've got an aggressive roadmap. So we got a lot of exciting stuff planned that goes even beyond some of the stuff that I've talked about here. But I think if you've thought about direct mail, or even if you haven't thought about it, it really is an effective channel that is untapped by most brands, allows you to reach customers, prospects that you're not able to reach online, and create more meaningful connections with those folks. And we make it super easy, super low risk to get started. We'll do it for you. There's no minimum quantity, so you can start, with essentially any budget and just test it out. See what it does for you. See if it works. If it does, scale it up. If not, there wasn't not a lot of risk involved there. So
does it work in Canada? Can you guys do anything in Canada or only in the US right now?
We can send to Canada. Right now we send from the US. So we kind of discourage it just because of the price of postage.
Right.
But we'll be having Canadian distribution and fulfillment in the next few months. So stay tuned for that. And then you'll be able to send using local rates and local postage. So it would be a lot more cost effective.
Well, I have a few companies. Would love to test you guys out. Let me know. Keep me posted. Keep me post-piloted. I don't know if that was a good one. But all right. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us and taking several shots of hot sauce with us. Excited to have you back on. Maybe sometime before the end of the year, get an update, or maybe or the new year. Congratulations on all your success, and we'll talk soon.
That'd be great. Thanks, Simon. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. And if you want to learn more about marketing, just hit that subscribe button and check out all the other videos we have with CEOs, CMOs, and founders. We post weekly here, so this way you won't miss any future episodes. Also, you can leave me a comment down below on what you think about this episode and also what else I can do or ask to make the show more fun for you. See you later.